freedom,
family,
world unity.
All these things and more will be discussed on this podcast.
Real stories, real people, real debates. On this podcast, we like to express our freedoms and talk about anything and everything goes.
Like freedom, family is important to us, and anybody that is listening, watching, or coming on the show as a guest star are all considered part of the greatest family to ever bless the solar system, the human race. No matter who you are, where you come from, you will always have a voice here on this podcast.
We like to flex our First Amendment, where all speeches and opinions are accepted for the right of freedom of speech. We have a saying we like to live by. Live life with eyes wide open. Being open-minded leads to true understanding of the world as it really is. Please, come, join us, and enjoy this experience as we embark on this journey of truth as we dismantle the subjective truth. I'm your host, Nick.
And I'm your co-host, Victoria.
And you're experiencing High Consciousness.
Disclaimer. Any and all information on topics presented are to the best of all who is present in each episode's knowledge. The goal of this podcast is to bring people together and set the example we all wish to see in our everyday lives. Whether it's home life, education, politics, history, business, etc. Any and all subjects can and will be talked and peacefully debated about on this podcast. On debate episodes, there will be a set rules of debate that hosts and guests alike must follow. We ask that you, the audience, like we ask of our guests, in the comments to please try to keep the language as clean as possible. We are a podcast for entertainment as well as educational purposes. Here we are all equal no matter what race, age, or gender. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Hi,
y'all, and welcome to High Consciousness.
I'm your host, Nick.
And I'm your host, Victoria.
And we are
High Consciousness. So,
a little recap for the last chapter. The last chapter of about Hope's Prophecy of America that predicted from 1732 to 1901. It had George Washington, McKinley, President Benjamin Harrison,
and Lincoln.
Yeah, I was gonna get to Lincoln, but I just want to mix it up everything. And the prophecy was a poem, and the poem had different numbers, different signs, and like if you add the numbers up and correlate the numbers to the years to those names. There you go. That's the Prophecy of America, but it only went up to 1901. Interestingly enough, and this poem is in the Library of Congress. That's been there for when the time the book was written for 60 years. So it now has been there for about over.
So let's see.
It's
80 years since 1944.
80. Okay.
Like this year. Yeah, it's 2024.
So 140 years since this prophecy has been written. Well. Roughly 132.
8 plus 6, yeah, because 8 plus 5 is 13, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it'd be like 140 years that this poem with this prophecy written on it has been in the Library of Congress. 140 years total, at least from today to all the way back then.
Just think all these things about America and all these prophecies in the time, and here it is coming in almost into
Well, hold up. Just for our viewers and audience's sake, why don't we take a little second? So, let's see. From 1944, it was 60 years. So, let's see. We take away, 40. We know it's 1900 plus, 2 more. So, that's like at least 1884 is when the Library of Congress ended up getting their hands on this poem.
Uh-huh.
So, that was, roughly 17-ish years before 1901, so before the completion of the prophecy.
Mm-hmm. Well, no. Remember, 2 of those deaths out of the prophecy was after the prophecy was in the Library of Congress. So I don't think...
So then our last 2 were what?
McKinley and Harrison.
McKinley and Harrison. So let's go to desktop view real quick and look this up. So, which one came first? It was President
Harrison.
Benjamin Harrison. Okay. So, 1833,
was when he was
1901 is when he died. He served as the 23rd President of the United States. So, like we said, it was 1884, so he was President 1889 to 1993. Or to 1893. Not 1993. Wow. 1893. So 1889 to 1893.
And then we go to McKinley.
And so, yeah. So, at least with Benjamin Harrison's presidency, that prophecy poem had been in the Library of Congress for 5 years. Yeah, 5 years. Because we estimated it would be 1884 if it was 60 years from 1944.
Right.
So, yep. So, and that's at least 5 years.
So maybe McKinley then.
So, yep, that's where in the book, it said that it was, 2 prophecies came true after it was submitted into the Library of Congress. So, again, little recap real quick. 1884 is when we estimate that the letter or poem was placed in the Library of Congress. Mr. Benjamin Harrison, who is part of the prophecy,
I believe it's Hope's...
He's president 5 years afterwards.
Hope's Guide for True Self-Defense and Duels, I believe. I think the book was called True Self-Defense, the Arts of Self-Defense and Dueling by Hope, because that's what the book was in the paper. Here, let me see.
There you go. And so now I'm going to look up President Will McKinley. Yep. Okay, so born, died. Oh wow, McKinley and the other guy died in the same year. He was born, Okay, so how many years?
1879.
1879 until his assassination in 1901.
The Library of Congress had this book since 1879.
1897, excuse me.
What?
So, Mr. William McKinley served as the 25th President of the United States from 1897 to 1901, which is funny because, let's see, I'm going to just open a new tab so that we can just go back and forth. President Harrison. There we go. So, here, Harrison served 1889 to 93, and then McKinley served from 1897 to 1901, and both of them died in the same year. Wow, he died March... Okay, so Benjamin Harrison died March 13th, 1901, and McKinley died almost exactly, March...
5 months.
April,
6
May,
months. 6 months from each
June,
other.
July, August, September.
Yeah, 6 months.
Exactly 6 months later. That's spooky. Ooh.
The vindication of the true arts of self-defense.
So, you said it's been in the Library of Congress since when?
1879.
1879. Wow. So, we estimated it was 1884, but it was actually earlier than that. So, if we take it from, 1879, and Mr. Harrison was president in 89, so that's it's already been in the Library of Congress for 10 years by the time Harrison was even president. By the time that he was president, yeah. That's really, really interesting. Wow. Okay.
But yes. But the prophecy ends. It ends in 1901. That's where the whole poetry ends type deal. There is an add-on to another late family member of Hope, but it's just a tribute to Hope, the person that originally written the poem. Got it.
Lots of interesting stuff in this book. Woo.
Makes you chilly.
And it makes you like get the chills.
Mm-hmm. So our next chapter will be read by our Miss Victoria.
Thanks. All right. Chapter 15. Finally. The unknown man who designed our flag. So, let's do a little let's see, what was it? Elementary or middle school that we learned a woman was the one that designed our flag. She was one of the Patriots' wife that, brought it to George Washington or something.
I was always taught and thought that it was George Washington's wife that made the flag.
See, that's what I thought too. It was some of the one of the Patriots' wives that served under Washington, or it was Washington's wife. That's what we were taught. I think when I got to college and I was in my American history class, I think he said it wasn't actually Washington's wife. It was actually one of the Patriots that served under Washington. It was his wife that did it, and Washington adopted it, which was a giant significant sign of how George Washington was one of the people, and he served the people, and the people looked up to him and all that other stuff. But that's what college taught me anyway. College. So yeah. Now we're probably gonna get
a whole other side of the story, probably.
This is gonna be a doozy.
You already said men, so the unknown man.
The unknown man, yeah. Instead of the unknown woman, is now the unknown man, really. And so here we go. Prologue. Our flag was worked out in elements of design that provided for a gradual modification in the future as the national destiny increased. It was a learned stranger, which means a very educated stranger, a philosopher, pretty much. A philosopher that was unknown to, our founding fathers, because it gets into Benjamin Franklin and all them. We've already hinted, this is something that at George Washington's time, when America was in the middle of its Revolutionary War, all that. So it was a learned stranger added by seemingly accident to the committee appointed by the Colonial Congress in 1775, who had the foresight to provide the area for the stars in subsequent substitution for the British Union Jack. Which means, how when you look at England's flag, it's got that same little square space with that, symbol for their country in it.
Yeah.
That's the British Union Jack. So that's kind of where, even in our own American flag, it signifies, our roots came from England, but we decided to make ourselves our own
country.
Yeah. But also, giving a slight homage to
England,
the place that the place that they came from. So, in subsequent substitution for the British Union Jack, the design was adopted by General Washington. There is no record that the committee ever made a report to Congress. According to the rules laid down by Francis Bacon for works published under the authority of the published under the authority of the Society of Unknown Philosophers, each book must be so marked as to be readily recognizable. The book that tells of the presence of the unknown designer ends with a quotation from Bacon. And it doesn't, in the prologue, it doesn't give it to us, but later in the chapter it will. Robert Allen Campbell in 1890 published a little book, Our Flag, or The Evolution of the Stars and Stripes. Diligent research fails to uncover any data about Mr. Campbell. He states in his preface that the work is a compilation of facts and dates from official sources, larger works, occasional pamphlets, and addresses upon this and collateral subjects. It is meant, therefore, for the pursuit of those who have not the time, opportunity, or disposition for a more extended study in this line of research. Then he refers specifically to the chapter of interest to our present consideration. That part of this sketch which treats of the which treats of the proceedings of the Congressional Committee in relation to the colonial flag and of the unofficial consideration by few of our revolutionary statesmen and heroes in regard to the flag of the 13 United States, immediately preceding in its adoption by Congress, has not heretofore, which means still has not been, published. So, I guess, like, what we're getting from here is, like...
This information has been published to the public.
It has not been published to the public. But apparently it's, like, really hard to get, your hands on this book that they're talking about here. Which I think I've actually seen it, like, be reprinted or remade and, like, seen it at Costco or something where it says, "Our flag, the evolution of stars and stripes." I think I've seen that somewhere. Or maybe I've seen it on, like, thrift books and it's, like, super cheap. But, again, this book was written in 1944, so at this point in time...
This information wasn't really out there.
Yeah.
You gotta realize, this was before the internet.
Yeah.
It was like hearsay, he say, notes taking.
Yeah. And having to actually, like,
trust that person's word type deal.
Trust the person's words, and then also, like, travel across, here, there, everywhere, and look at thousands and thousands upon, like, documents and letters and journals and all kinds of other writings, I'm sure, just to be able to get the information or the idea of what, these people were talking about. This last statement makes it extremely difficult to trace Mr. Campbell's source of information. We are forced to the conclusion that the story must have been given to him by word of mouth. The book itself must have been printed in very small edition, for it has become exceedingly scarce and is seldom ever offered for sale. On those rare occasions when copies have changed hands, the book commands a price far in excess of usual works in this field. According to the rules laid down by Sir Francis Bacon for works published under the authority of the Society of Unknown Philosophers, each book must be marked in some peculiar way. Okay, I'm just going to restate that.
Yeah, restate that again.
According to the rules laid down by Sir Francis Bacon for works published under the authority of the Society of Unknown Philosophers, each book must be marked in some peculiar way, easily recognizable by the informed, but not conspicuous to those who are not a party of the plan. Not a party to the plan. So, like, we've been watching that show Evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, our little, spiritual team for the church, our little skeptic spiritual team, it's a really great show. If y'all haven't seen it yet, Evil, it's really great. But, like, it's just kind of like, this little script right here reminds me of like, the little sigils and stuff that apparently, the demon army is, like, leaving in all these books and paintings and writings and stuff, or... it's their seal for some kind of, like, law firm or something. And how it's like, to the average everyday person, we think, oh, that's just, like, their signature, that's just their thing, and we're none the wiser. But to people that are educated in signs and sigils and stuff, they'll see that and be like, whoa, hold up, I know what's up here. Those that are privy to the information are privy to the part of the plan.
Yep.
Is what that's saying. Like, so it's like, I wonder in what books that, have passed through time, what are those markings, what do they mean? And, just everything is so intertwined. Like, how complex all this planning and secrecy is. Like, I almost can't believe it. So, continuing on with the reading. I'm sorry, y'all. I had to go on a little rant there because I'm just like, amazed. I'm blown away and kind of like bewildered by the information in such a way that it's like, it's exciting, but I'm also like kind of deeply disturbed about it at the same time, especially with how long all of this has been going on.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much since the beginning of civilization, as
Modern,
far as we know it.
Modern
The
civilization.
beginning of modern civilization as we know it. All of the older writings are so marked either with ciphers, curious headpieces, vignettes, colophons, designs, symbols, figures, or signatures. It is possible that the book Our Flag carries such a significance, for it ends with the following question. Out of monuments, names, words, proverbs, private records, and evidences, fragments of stories, passages in books, and the like, we save and recover somewhat from the deluge of time. Bacon. So that's the phrase that in the beginning preface was talking about, that's the quote from Bacon that book ends with. So, enough of me talking. What is your take, Nicholas?
I don't know. You have a lot to say. The shoe shine. I mean, so basically this flag was a real sigil for the secret society. Those I was saying they're breaking apart from London.
Yes.
So I was pretty much was kind of getting at. It was
kind of.
There's a lot to say. So little to say with a lot of information.
Yeah, and that's like, just one page. Like, I haven't even really gotten to, the second part of this page over here.
Yeah,
and that's just a whole lot of information right there.
But that's pretty much what I got from it, was that our flag was really a sigil for the secret society to signify that we're breaking away from the Britain and we're going to do our own thing, but we'll pay homage to it by keeping it looking the same.
But different, and able to modify it at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Because in this book, our flag, like it's like Pamela P. Hall said, it's a book that has a lot of information, but it wasn't known to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
Or out to the public. So, a lot of controversy with this book. And quite evidently enough, real interesting. I'll just say it like that. 1775.
Yeah. 1775. One thing is certain, Robert Allen Campbell has concluded his treatise with a curiously meaningful passage from the writings of the man responsible for the broad program of colonization in the Western world that made possible the creation of the United States of America. The selection of Bacon's words to conclude the book may be accident and it may be intent, but in the light of the text and the air of mystery which covers the history of the writing and the life of the author, it appears more than possible that the intent is the answer. Chapter 2 of Our Flag is entitled The Colonial Flag. In this substance is what it says. In the fall of 1775, the Colonial Congress in session at Philadelphia appointed Messrs. Franklin, Lynch, and Harrison as a committee to consider and recommend a design for a colonial flag. General Washington was then in camp at Cambridge, Massachusetts, and the committee was...
I know. Sorry, y'all.
Our phones just seem to be going off today.
Well, let's be honest here. We kind of just said, screw it. We're going to just record and kind of forgot about our phones. And literally,
yeah, we usually have a rule no phones while we're in the process of recording. And today both your hosts broke their own rule.
And you know what they say?
We're just having a really off day today, y'all. I'm sorry. We've had a full week packed with medical appointments and stuff, so that's why this episode is a little late. Usually we post about every 3 or 4 days. This one's about 4 5 days ish later than the last one, and we deeply apologize. We had normal lives just like you guys, and I had an accident, so I have medical doctor's appointments and stuff to help me with my own health and all that other good stuff. But anyway,
another time for another episode.
Yeah, another time for another episode. Back to the reading. Chapter 2 of Chapter 2 of our flag is entitled The Colonial Flag. In this substance, this is what it says. I'm just going to reread that again. In the fall of 1775, the Colonial Congress in session at Philadelphia appointed Messrs. Franklin, Lynch, and Harrison as a committee to consider and recommend a design for a colonial flag. General Washington was then in camp at Cambridge, Massachusetts, and the committee went there to consult with him. While at Cambridge, the committee men were entertained by a patriotic and well-to-do citizen. At that time, the best room in this gentleman's residence was temporarily occupied by a peculiar old gentleman. As there was only one other guest room, Messrs. Lynch and Harrison were given the unoccupied room, and Dr. Franklin shared apartments with the old gentleman. Nothing is known about the mysterious old man, except that he was referred to as the Professor. His name is not preserved. He was beyond 70 years of age, but apparently in the prime of his life. He ate no flesh, fish, nor fowl, meaning he ate no meats, fish or fowl. So no meat, no fish, no bird either.
Vegetarian.
He didn't eat any green things, drank no liquor, wine, or ale. His diet consisted of cereals, well-ripened fruit, nuts, tea, and such sweets as honey and molasses. He was well educated, highly cultured, of extensive as well as varied information, and very studious. He spent most of his time pondering over rare books and ancient manuscripts, which he seemed to be deciphering, translating, or rewriting. These he kept carefully locked up in a heavy, iron-bound chest and never showed them to any person. He was liberal, but in no ways lavish with his money, but was well supplied with all that he needed. The professor was a staunch advocate of democracy, and his favorite statement was, "We demand no more than our just due. We will accept and be satisfied with nothing less than we demand." Whew. That's an odd man.
He's a wanderer.
In this time, in 1775, to live to be 70 and claim
You're
to
old.
be still in your prime.
That's unheard of.
That was dumb unheard of.
Your prime was 50. Your prime was 20, sir. In those days.
20, 30, maybe, yeah. Nowadays it's 30, 40, 50, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It's got about a 20-year range now, but still, that's back in that day, that's really, like they said, this is a peculiar old gentleman.
Mm-hmm. Who eats nothing but nuts, fruits, molasses, and honey.
Mm-hmm.
No green stuff and no meats of any
So,
sort.
he doesn't eat vegetables, he doesn't eat... Oh, wow. That's still, really strange.
Why eat one thing
On
but
the
not
eve
the other?
of their arrival, December 13th, the committee men dined with their host and hostess, also General Washington and the professor. The professor was introduced to the visitors without his name being given, and his ease, grace, and dignity during the introduction is especially noted. When Benjamin Franklin was presented, he stepped forward and extended his hand, which the professor heartily accepted. As their eyes met with an instantaneous and very apparent and a mutually gratified recognition. After dinner, Washington and the committee men exchanged a few words in undertone, and then Dr. Franklin arose, saying in substance, "As the chairman of this committee, speaking for my associates, and with their consent, and with the approval of General Washington, I respectfully invite the professor to meet with the committee as one of its members, and we, each one, personally and urgently, request him to accept the responsibility and give to us and the American colonies the benefit of his presence and his counsel." Wow. After graciously accepting the invitation, the professor made his first recommendation. He pointed out that the committee now consisted of 6 persons, General Washington and the hosts being honorary members. 6 was not an auspicious number, and none of the members could be spared. Let the hostess be included so that the number could be increased to 7. So they purposely if we think the hostess, so if George Washington is the host, then the hostess would have to be his wife, right? Martha.
Right.
So now it was like they had 6, but they wanted to increase it to 7. Isn't 7 like, a magical number or something?
Mm-hmm. Only 3 is the magical number. Only 3 is the magical number.
Isn't it like 3, 5, 7, and 9?
Mm-hmm. Prime numbers?
Yeah, all prime numbers. This suggestion was unanimously accepted, and the hostess became the secretary of the committee. The committee met the following evening in the professor's room. General Washington opened the proceedings by asking Dr. Franklin for his recommendations. Franklin replied by requesting that the entire committee listen to the words of his newfound and abundantly honored friend, the professor, who had definite suggestions to make. After a preamble, the professor made the following extraordinary remarks. I'm sorry, y'all. I need something to drink before I continue here.
Mm-hmm.
My throat's starting to get a little dry.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, here we go. And this is going to be a doozy also. And, we don't fully understand it. Well, at least I don't, and I've already, pre-read the chapter. So maybe reading it a second time I might get it, but if y'all don't get it either, don't feel bad. Your hostess doesn't get it either.
Yeah. I'm somewhat still trying to get it.
The son of our political heir. Okay, so this is what the professor said. The sun of our political heir, like the sun in the heavens, is very low in the horizon, just now approaching in the winter solstice, which it will reach very soon. But as the sun rises from his grave in Capricorn, mounts toward his resurrection in Aries, and passes onward and upward to his glorious culmination in Cancer, so will our political sun rise and continue to increase in power, in light, and in glory. And the exalted sun of summer will not have gained his full strength of heat and power in the starry lion until our colonial sun will be, until our glorious sun will be in its glorious exaltation, demanding a place in the governmental firmaments alongside of, coordinate with, and in no wise subordinate to, any other son of any other nation upon earth.
Whew.
So, I guess, so obviously the sun rising from, Capricorn, Aries, and Cancer, that has, some kind of, maybe biblical reference to it, because when you look into, the suns and the seasons and stuff of, Christian holidays and, it all, it all has to do with, those certain times of the year. The sun is in Cancer or Capricorn or within Aries, and these are, the specific holidays that happen within it. So, Christmas, that's the Capricorn there. It's either... Oh, yeah. So Capricorn, I think, is, December, which is, supposed to be Christmas and, Jesus' birthday and stuff. And then Cancer is supposed to represent... Well, Aries is the resurrection, so that's, Easter.
Yes.
Because I think, the Aries constellation is, April, May-ish.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or March, April, May-ish.
May-ish.
But culmination in Cancer. So does that mean well, what does culmination mean, first of all? I don't even know what that word means.
Probably together.
The highest or climatic point of something, especially as attained after a long time. Oh. So, I guess, again, like, if we put it back in the biblical reference, I guess that's, like, the time of when, like, you know, the height or the prime of something is supposed to happen.
Right. I got you.
After a long time has passed after the resurrection. So, again, this sounds like a Judgment Day or Revelations type kind of ish thing.
Probably Revelations.
So, that's...
Resurrection.
Which, I mean, when you actually do read Revelations, it's very, very,
interesting.
Climatic, to say the least. And then it just hits like a really hard boom, and then the end. The Bible is very it's interesting to read, and it's just kind of like,
stirs up a lot of questions.
How do you even like think to write something of these sorts? And you know, even some of the things in Revelations is very hard to like describe or even get a mental picture of, especially with like these candlesticks and you know these like other thrones, and then like the throne of God and what it looks like, and then you know Jesus apparently like comes out and he's got like a sword in his mouth, and like he takes the sword out of his mouth, and I'm like, well, that's pretty horrifying, you know, and terrifying to see. Like, what?
We're reading into the lines too much. Let's get back. Let's get back to.
Anyway, sorry.
No, I said let's get back to the other book that we're reading.
So then, continuing with the reading, the professor went on to point out that the flag, which he recommended, would be subject to change in the future as the national destiny increased. This change, however, should not require a complete redesigning, but a process of gradual modification. To make it announce and present the new nation which is already gestating in the womb of time and which will come to birth, and that not prematurely but fully developed and ready. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm just gonna say that one more time. To make it announce and represent the new nation which is already gestating in the womb of time and which will come to birth, and that not prematurely but fully developed and ready for the change into independent life, before the sun in its next summer strength ripens our next harvest. The design finally submitted and consisted of a field of 13 alternate red and white stripes, and in the area which now contains the stars was the British Union Jack. The area containing the Union Jack was the one suitable for modification. The design was formally and unanimously accepted, and the flag was adopted by General Washington as the recognized standard of the colonial army and navy. There is no record of any report being made by this committee to Congress. On January 2nd, 1776, at Cambridge, in the presence of the army, General Washington, with his own hands, raised the newly made flag on a tall and specially prepared pine liberty pole. Blech. The British Army at Charleston Heights could see the flag clearly. After inspecting it with their field glasses, the British officers ordered a salute of 13 cheers, followed by a regular salute of 13 guns in honor of the new standard. It appears, therefore, that the colonial flag was pleasing to the British as much as it was to the colonies. And it is easy to see why Mr. Campbell's story has received very little recorded recognition. It belongs among those shadowy and mysterious happenings which influence or change the course of empire, but will ever find little favor with prosaic and unimaginable historians.
Because first of all, it's because it signifies that the British was like, yeah,
it kind of signifies that, you know, the British were happy with it because, like we said before, it was like a homage to remind them of like where they came from, but also declaring total independence.
Yes. And then the next chapter is
The next chapter is Thomas Paine and the Rights of Man. Ooh, so we get to learn a little more about Thomas Paine. Back in
He brings the pain.
It brings on pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we're just kidding. We're just kidding.
No, we are.
But that chapter is very interesting.
Yes, very interesting. So
I wonder who like this.
I mean, you can definitely tell why it's controversy because it literally takes away everything that we kind of know. Like, did y'all think that a woman made the flag, or was it this man, this mysterious professor?
Where'd my bookmark go?
I don't know.
Oh no, I lost my bookmark.
Not the bookmark.
It's not in the book.
Oh Lord, baby.
But yeah, this is just really interesting. I can see why it's controversial, and what were y'all taught? Please leave us all your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Like, really, what were y'all taught growing up? Were you taught that a man or a woman made our flag?
Yeah, that's the basics right there. Who really made our flag? Was it a man or was it a woman? Was it George Washington's wife? Was it one of the major founding fathers' Patriots' wife? Or was it a Patriots' wife that was in the army?
Or was it this stranger who in his 70s was apparently in his prime at that time? And,
I feel as though that part of our history was, how can I say, shrouded just for us to have this debate, because it really doesn't matter who made the flag. It's just still, because the significance is just as important. The significance of it is the fact that we made a flag, and that the person who made the flag could be faceless because of the virtues and liberties of what the flag represents.
Oh, kind of like the whole message behind V for Vendetta.
Yes.
V, he never really shows his face
But
because he wants, people to, see him like
Guy Fawkes.
like Guy Fawkes,
mm-hmm.
as
the
idea, not the man.
Mm-hmm.
So that the idea lives on, because men die, ideas do not. They live on forever.
And I feel like that's where this whole flag thing comes into play.
I think so too. Like, that's really awesome. So, with that, we have come to the end of our episode. If you've made it this far, please leave a like and a comment. Get us shooting through the algorithm.
And share this video.
And share, because sharing is caring. And always remember to live life with eyes wide open. Thank y'all for all the support. Please like and subscribe. And
y'all are the greatest.
We'll see y'all in the next one.
And we love y'all, and y'all are the greatest.
Thanks, y'all.